Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 15, Episode 13. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Wednesday, Steelers Nation, midweek as Pittsburgh gears up for their preseason finale Saturday on the road against the Detroit Lions. But Dave, lots to talk about today, lots of roster moves. You and I both have our new roster predictions, and we hear from the coordinators, heard from Mike Tomlin, so plenty to discuss. How you doing?
Doing well. I had to do some math this morning. Woke up, got some coffee, and had to work on the spreadsheets with some math and play detective and first world problems.
Yeah, check out that post. That's on all the injury settlements. I think the Pittsburgh's been clearing their IR list. And so if you want some math, some numbers, some salary cap, updated information, check out that post from Dave.
All right. We definitely have some things to talk about today, don't we? It should be an entertaining show. At least I hope it is.
We do. Let's discuss here the news of yesterday. Pittsburgh making a slew of roster moves. Unfortunately, the most notable one is, and this was kind of expected, but offensive lineman, guard, center Nate Herbig placed on IR, according to Jerry Dulac, who's been on top of the reporting over the last several days, first indicating the injury was serious and then noting it was a torn rotator cuff. This happened on the final day, like the last hour of training camp during, I think, a one-on-one blocking drill for the offensive lineman. Herbig got hurt. We reported that, and now we know the extent of the injury. It's going to cost Herbig the entire 2024 season. He was placed on IR yesterday because he went to IR before the final cutdown date of August 27th. He will not be eligible to return this year. So that is the most notable news there. Of course, Zach Frazier stepping into this lineup as this team's starting center from here on out. Pittsburgh also releasing veteran cornerback Anthony Averett, who got signed on a tryout basis after rookie minicamp, was on the offseason roster, had a couple of moments during the summer, but did not play well against Buffalo on Saturday. They signed a pair of linebackers in edge rusher Marcus Haynes, and I already mentioned this one, I think, up-ball linebacker Kaihava Tizino, a former San Francisco 49er, and was with the Birmingham Stallions of the UFL earlier this year. So bunch of roster moves to talk about, Dave.
Yeah, and obviously the most notable and unfortunate one is with Nate Herbig there. And, we kind of saw it trending that way based on a report by Jerry Dulac a few days ago. And now his season's over with. And that obviously, as you stated, not that it wasn't probably going to end up happening anyway, but Zach Frazier now in the driver's seat to be the week one starter. And the bigger question at this point is what's going to happen at the backup center position moving forward from here. You have, you got who? Ryan McCollum, who's got got some experience and some time in the NFL on practice squads and a little bit in the regular season. He has been the guy that's followed Herbig or Frazier into the first two preseason games. The only three centers that have snaps in the preseason so far are Nate Herbig, Zach Frazier, and Ryan McCollum. And as we've talked quite a bit, I think even in that last show, going to be interesting to see if Spencer Anderson or Mason McCormick get some snaps at center in this preseason finale. The fact that the Steelers, these most recent moves did not include another center, at least for now, leads you to believe that they're going to work with what they have. And obviously you can go on the outside at some point during the final roster cut downs and go that path if you needed to, but It will be interesting. At least we have a little bit of intrigue or something off of the radar to kind of watch in this last preseason game, because I don't know how much Zach Frazier. I would like to think that they were going to get Zach Frazier some snaps in this final preseason game. I don't know if he's going to get 40 or something like he got in this last one. But who follows him into the game, and more importantly, do we see Spencer Anderson or Mason McCormick get snaps there?
It's a great question, something to watch for intently in this one. McCollum, as you said, is an obvious name to discuss from the standpoint of him having the center experience, but I imagine, and I have to believe one, if not both, but at least one of Anderson or McCormick will get work at center in this finale. Anderson played center a little bit in college, played center some last year in training camp. I believe you had 5 preseason snaps you had tweeted out today at center last season, had not done it at all in training camp this year, besides doing some warm-up stuff very early in practices occasionally, but did not do so in team. Mason McCormick, Pittsburgh worked him out as a center right before the draft, and maybe they would have viewed him as a center type of guy had they not drafted Zach Frazier. Had they missed out on the big 3 centers and needed a plan B, maybe McCormick would have been their plan B. He's primarily played guard, though, in Pittsburgh in training camp, and of course was a guard at South Dakota State. So if I had to guess right now who the favorite to be the backup is, and it's open, I'd say Anderson. I think they're going to give him a look there. He's a little more natural there than McCormick, a little, I think, bendy to play center than McCormick is, but we'll wait and see.
And while Spencer Anderson played something to the tune of 300 and what do I have listed there? 300 something snaps at center in college at Maryland.
I think 382.
Something like that. 301 of them came in 2021.
Right. So a little while ago for Anderson.
Right. And obviously Mason McCormick barely played the position at all in college. So that's something to watch. So I don't want to spend too much time on it because it'll come out in the wash, but it does impact the way you look at 53-man roster predictions in the now.
Right. And Dave and I have our updated roster predictions. We'll compare and contrast and go through here in just a little bit. I think those were all the roster moves. From that standpoint, Pittsburgh did release a slew of players with injury settlements, which is what Dave wrote about this morning. Most notably, Grayland Arnold, who injured his calf on the final day of training camp, just like Herbig. He went to IR the following day and then now has officially been released. In Pittsburgh, releasing a couple other players with settlements as well, and wide receiver Tariq Black, safety Nate Meters, cornerback Kalen Barnes, and is there one I'm missing? I mean, I think there's one.
I think. Well, we got the Fahoko one. I think did we cover that one? But all told, at this point right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think 8 players have received injury settlements this summer from the team. Keelan Harris, Luke Barku, Tyler Murray, Braden Fahoko, Nate Meters, Kalen Barnes, Tariq Black, and Grayland Arnold. And some of these totals, like I opened up the show with, are starting to now finally hit the NFLPA public salary cap sheet. The bad thing about it is they make you work to they don't tell you who those amounts go to, and they don't tell you for how many weeks that they go to. So you have to match what their split salaries were up, and then take the total of what the salary cap number shrunk by, and try to play detective with it. To my best guesstimation, and I need to clarify that it is only a guesstimation here, I think Keelan Harris received a 2-week injury settlement at $55,000, and I think Luke Barku received a 1-week injury settlement at $28,889. That would make the most sense because those two were the longest outstanding that had not hit the salary cap yet. But there is some intrigue in there, as I wrote in that post, because I'm trying to figure out how many credited seasons Keelan Harris actually has, because there's some uncertainty there because of him being terminated by the Falcons, I think last year with an injury settlement. So was that injury settlement for 3 weeks or more? And if so, he got a credited season, which would match the amount that I have listed for him with a settlement. But nobody tunes into this show. Well, maybe a few of you do. God bless you nerds out there. They don't tune into this show to talk about math and injury settlements.
The stuff that keeps Dave Bryan up at night.
And it does too. I couldn't wait. I got up. I saw the numbers shifted. I ran down and got the coffee, and I got to work, man.
Let me ask you the most nerdy question ever about this, and I don't know if either of us have an answer. I don't. But for these settlements, do they get paid in a lump sum? Are they weekly based on the settlement agreement? How does that work?
I do not know the answer to that. I would think that. I mean, you're talking about most of these being sums of under 100,000. I would guess that it'd be. These guys don't have any money. Most of these guys, if you think about the type of players that this happens to, they're mostly, guys that don't even have a credited season or barely have even played in the NFL. So they're probably hard up for a little bit of cash, if you know what I mean. But I mean, there might be rules that or stipulations that they do get paid out over X amount of weeks. So the short answer is I don't know, and I'm not gonna pretend to know.
And the settlement amount is based off what their base salary would have been, correct? Is that how they determine the weekly amount and the total figure? Yeah,
the way it works is most of these guys that end up getting waived injured and going to IR, they have what's called split salary clauses in their contracts. And if you pull up the NFL CBA and you go to near the back end of it, there's tables in there of minimum salaries for standard pay based on credited seasons, and then there's another chart based on minimum salaries that you can pay a player for their credited season on split salary amounts there. So most of these guys sign contracts with split salary clauses, meaning if they have to go to IR, they go on a lesser amount. And then when you work out an injury settlement with a player, you negotiate, well, how many weeks would this guy miss in a regular season? And it's a negotiation process with an agent and all. And then what you do is you take the split salary amount, divide it by 18, because that's how many pay weeks there are in the NFL season. And then you apply what the agreed to amount of the week settlement is, and that's how you get your settlement amount. Now, a lot of agents and the players they represent will oftentimes really try hard, especially for these guys that don't have a lot of experience, to get them at least 3 weeks injury settlement pay, because that gives the player a credited season. And thus, should they latch on with the team and do much of anything, they can get to either restricted free agency or unrestricted free agency earlier. So that's all the behind the doors negotiation that goes on with that.
The more you know.
The more you know. And once again, I know a lot of that doesn't interest a lot of people, but we try to be as thorough as possible and teach as much as possible. And I like to learn as much as possible when it comes to this stuff. And there is a lot that I don't know about this stuff.
Yeah, actually, I wasn't entirely sure how the settlement process worked, if it worked off of the original salary or the split salary. So I learned something today myself. So we're all better off for it. All right, Dave, some other just small housekeeping here, just a minor point, something that was going to inevitably happen, but report that former Steelers minority owners Josh Harris and David Blitzer sold their stakes in the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they did that because they were part of the group that bought the Washington Commanders, and NFL rules stipulate you can't own two teams. And so while there was no big rush to unwind their entanglement with Pittsburgh and their stakes in the team, the Commander sale was finalized a while ago. That officially pushed through. And I don't know where those stakes were sold to, though. That's a good question.
That is a good question.
I know
That's
Thomas
one that I got.
I know Thomas Tull was trying to, I think, make a play to buy some of those, and there was other interest elsewhere. So I don't know if we know that information, but those shares have officially been sold.
as much as we like to think that we do know, and as much research as we do know, we get some great questions of things that we don't know. And I don't know where those shares went to.
That news should come out at some point because there were stories talking about who was going to buy them. So I imagine somebody's going to talk here at some point. All right. I know we're in super weeds about not the most pressing issues. So let's talk about here some of the here and now. Coordinators speaking yesterday, Dave, Arthur Smith and Teryl Austin. And just off the top, it's funny, the team provides a transcript of the interviews. They're not shown live. And you get the former head coach feel from Arthur Smith, how long that transcript is compared to the Teryl Austin transcript of more tighter, shorter answers from Coach Austin. But let's start here with Arthur Smith. And, he talked a lot. I don't know how much he actually really said. There were a couple of notable things that he talked about, with this game. Russell Wilson, they were kind of running a more limited scheme and playbook with Wilson because Wilson, this was his first game. So kind of catching up on reps after missing the good chunk of training camp. And so Fields was kind of had a more open playbook just because he had gotten more reps compared to Wilson.
The primary takeaway for the good opening part of it is it's basically Arthur Smith saying, relax, right?
Right.
Don't read too much into the preseason. And let's see, the part about Russell Wilson was, kind of obvious. They were trying to do different things with him offensively and not do some things like, put stress on his calf, I would suppose, and roll him out. They wanted to try to do stuff related more to him being in the pocket, whereas with Justin Fields, when he got into the game, they were able to use full complement of the abilities that he has. Some people are saying, well, does this mean that Russell Wilson isn't 100% healthy? And if not, why is he out there? I don't think they would put him in the game if they thought there was a huge fear of him not being 100% or risk of re-injuring that calf. But on the flip side, I think they just wanted to make sure that they were cautious with what they were asking them to do and try to keep him out of harm's way as much as possible, even though he wound up on the ground a few times on top of it there. So I think he gave a good explanation as far as that goes. And I don't know, what other parts do you want to dig into here? Go ahead.
Yeah, just to talk about it. Yeah, Smith's point was the way the offense is played is not acceptable. It's not to our standard. He's not excusing it, but he is acknowledging it is the preseason, and that's important. I'm not panicking over the state of the offense as bad as they've looked through the first two exhibition games. I'm not going to assume that's, guaranteed to happen and carry over into the regular season. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to be much better. I'm going in with a clean slate come week one. So I'm not hitting the panic button despite the offensive struggles. My concern is with Broderick Jones and the health of the tackles and that group overall. That's really the only thing I'm concerned about right now. But Smith did touch upon that point and talked about that he, still has confidence in Broderick Jones and that he's not running away from the fight, and, we'll get better and we'll play better.
Yeah. And the takeaway is that, his play's not up to the standard right now. He goes on to say, well, somebody's dealing with something, maybe more than others. If somebody's out there is medically cleared, I don't look at it like that with Broderick Jones. He says, like I said, any lineman, whatever position, whatever scheme, if you get beat early, that's the issue. You could have he could have said that and walked away. He says, so with linemen, and that's the thing is we can all see in the stands, if you get beat early and inside, clearly that's a one-on-one, but he's out there and he's going against a good player, yada, yada. So, the big takeaway is that collectively, offensively, it's not up to standard. And I don't think we needed him telling us that.
No, but the question is, are you panicking or are you concerned about how the offense is looking? Do you think that's an indication of how this offense will look come the regular season?
Not in totality, no, because they're not putting a lot out there as far as schematics goes. The thing more than anything to use the preseason for is to look at individual performance.
Right. And as Smith said, they were repeating some plays and just working on some concepts. We talked about that Monday, where some of the read option type games, some of the run pass option type stuff they were doing. So it was less about calling the perfect play, more so as it was getting some reps in on some looks on some kind of core concepts.
And you're not helping yourself by false starts. And then obviously in the first game, the bad exchanges, and then, your tackles getting beat early for sacks.
Right. Well, let's stick with Broderick Jones since we're talking about it. Jones did meet with the media yesterday. He declined to speak with reporters post-game after playing Buffalo. He said he had to talk to the doctors. And Jones, to his credit, didn't make excuses, did not try to pretend that he wasn't playing poorly. He said he played poorly. He's got to be better. He's got to be more physical. I thought the most notable takeaway, though, was somebody had asked him about, is it the elbow? Is that what you're dealing with? And he said it's multiple things, apparently. And so he's indicating there is more than one injury than just the elbow.
Yeah. Look, he's not wearing that brace on that right arm to make a fashion statement, right?
Yeah, somebody had asked him about that. Does it help you with your technique? I'm like, it is the opposite of probably helping with his technique. Now he's saying the brace is no issue. He said there was an adjustment early on. Maybe the brace is not the issue, but it's indicative, I think, of what potentially could be an issue, that he's dealing with some injury that is hampering his play, because he has never looked this bad before.
Right. He was a mess on tape, especially in this game.
Now, I think the issue, specifically, I did a video breakdown on this. Ross McCorkle did an article breakdown. Go check those out. But I think it's really twofold. A, he's late with his hands. He's late to shoot, and defenders are getting into his chest first and making that first contact, when Pat Meyer's whole rule is be aggressive. If you lose, it's probably because you weren't aggressive enough and making good first significant contact. That's the key phrase that Meyer always harps on. And then B, I think what's happening is he's really erratic on his punch, Jones is. His hands are wide. He's missing. Hands are outside, and he's not creating good power on his punch. And I don't care how athletic you are. I don't care how well you move, how well you redirect. If you can't use your hands well, nothing else really matters. And so he's got to get back to being more technical, keeping his hands tighter. I did go back to his rookie year and just kind of rewatching, and I was looking for some specific things. His punch was never the best last year. It was better, but I think he's got to really be more consistent with his strike, because I think it's been spotty throughout his Steelers career.
And to his credit, he didn't blame it on sides, left or right side. It will be interesting now, though, in this preseason finale. And I'm going to assume he's going to play, and I would imagine you would you believe that as well. Is he going to get left tackle snaps?
Yeah, I mean, he'll start at right tackle, I assume, because Fautanu's still out. The question is, will they kick him over? And there's a decent chance of that. I really can't say for sure how they're going to handle this thing. I really want to see what happens when it comes to week one. If Fautanu is healthy and starts, as the reporting indicates, and Fautanu spoke yesterday and said he believes he'll be ready to play week one, didn't guarantee he'll start, left that to coaches. But then the decision becomes against Broderick Jones, your first round pick of a year ago, the guy with the upside, the talent. But Dan Moore, 1-for-1, is outplaying Broderick Jones right now, and they love Dan Moore. And so I really want to see what direction they go.
And if Broderick Jones is dealing with something, and if the issues continue in this preseason finale, maybe it would be a good thing to sit him down for the first couple of weeks of the season, let him rest that thing.
It might. I don't know if rest is the cure. My suspicion is that rest is not going to kind of fix at least some of the ailments that he has right now, that it may take something, I'm just speculating, but something surgical, and they don't want to do that now because all the time it would cost him. They're trying to see if they can manage and get through it. But the bottom line is, it's got to be better technique. And while I'm as frustrated as anybody about the flip-flopping and this team not really putting Jones much at left tackle this summer, that is not his current problem. It's not the reason why he was as ugly looking as he was against Buffalo.
Right. I mean, he's got to be better. He knows it. We know it. Everybody knows it.
Yeah. So that is the story on Broderick Jones, and we'll watch for him against Detroit, and should see some. Well, I don't know if they're going to play Aiden Hutchinson in this game. I don't know what Detroit's plan is, but if they do play some starters, we'll see if he gets some reps against Hutchinson. What else from Arthur Smith? Was there anything else that was really notable to discuss?
I just talked about, hey, the quarterback decision's not mine. I'll have some input in it, obviously, but that's above his pay grade at this point.
Right. The perks of being the OC. That is not my job. Someone else can make those tough decisions. You just tell me who I'm rolling with, and I'll take it from there. So that is the benefit of no longer being the head coach.
Exactly.
All right. Flipping over to Teryl Austin. What did he talk about? I thought the most interesting comment was about the slot corner position, which Austin basically says, somebody show up, just somebody take the job. And there's really not been anybody available to do that. I don't know the exact phrasing of the question. The transcript just says, his comments on the slot corner position. I'm assuming somebody had asked him, is it difficult to evaluate, or is it a difficult battle, difficult choice to make? And Austin says, quote, "It's not hard because there's nobody there. So, it's easy. Whoever shows up gets it. That's about where we are right now." And then goes on to say, that's going to go down to the last second and see who's available, I guess. So not exactly the most confident sounding answer from Teryl Austin, but it's true. Arnold got hurt. He's on IR. He's done. Beanie Bishop had a minor injury. He missed the Bills game. Valuable reps for a young guy. It's been Thomas Graham as the one guy who's been healthy.
Yeah, look, as we get into our roster predictions here, the most recent ones and all, this is a position group that we've talked about for most of the for a good part of the offseason here. And you've got, you've had a long you remember just several weeks ago we were talking about who was the first one that got cut?
Josiah Scott.
Yeah, Josiah Scott. They've gone through they've had a list of guys stand up, and you think we're all going to battle for that, but either they've been cut, or in the case of Braylon Arnold, got injured, and now you're down to just a couple of those guys, and it even makes you wonder even more if this team might go on the outside.
Yeah, I've talked about the need of outside corner to add somebody. I still believe that's true, but I think slot corner becomes, more likely by the day based on just lack of information, lack of evaluation with these guys. Now, if Bishop has a really good game against Detroit, then that will make this team more comfortable. And Graham has made some plays, and Austin's talked him up, but I think the pro scouting department, Sheldon White, and those guys will be watching secondaries around the NFL pretty closely.
Absolutely. Good. Some obviously nice praise from Teryl Austin on Nick Herbig. Says, Herbie, yeah, he's making a really nice jump. He's had a really good camp. He's explosive, loves ball, all the good things that you want in a football player, and he's continuing to develop, and so I like what he's doing. He says, what is the biggest difference that I've seen so far with Nick Herbig? He said, I think a lot of times most guys grow a lot between their first and second year, because think about him last year, his transfer to the NFL, the combine, all the different things he's doing. He's just going. Now he's had a chance to be able to develop, understand what's going on around him. And that's why guys make the biggest jump. He's doing that, which you ain't going to get any argument out of me on that one there. What else did he talk about? DeMarvin Leal was asked about DeMarvin Leal. He says he's had a heck of a camp. He's probably in the best shape he's been in since we drafted him. He can play. He could play inside. He could play outside. He's that athletic. I don't want to jinx anybody, especially him, but he's done a heck of a job. And if we need him to play outside linebacker, he absolutely could.
And he played a ton against Buffalo when lines got shorter, played more against Buffalo than he did versus Houston, when that Houston game was kind of the talk about him playing outside linebacker and barely saw time there. So it seems like Leal is going to become just kind of a jack of all trades. I don't think he's ever going to be, and the team doesn't envision him to be, the every down starting defensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers. At 275 pounds, you're not going to be a base end. He's gotten some work there this summer, but you're not going to see a ton of time once regular season action begins. So it's kind of more a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of sub-package interior work, can stand up, wear a couple different hats. But that's kind of the direction it seems like Leal's going to go to salvage his career.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. He is a lot lighter than the rest of those guys on that line.
I had been impressed by his pass rush. I think technically he's better. I had a clip of him with a really good swim move over right tackle against Buffalo. And in my my thoughts on him last year was that he could use his hands to shed blocks in the run game, but in the pass game, he would get locked up so often, really had no moves, had no technique. And I've seen improvement there. So that's been encouraging to see. You're seeing, technique match the natural athleticism that he has, and that actually starts creating a bit of movement as a pass rusher.
Yeah, look, he's shown some nice pass rush stuff this summer for sure.
Yeah, so I've been happy with that improvement. I mean, we'll talk about it more with our rosters, but how close to putting his name in pen on this 53 are you right now?
Well, I have in pen. I'm not there. I'm not there yet, but okay. I like his odds.
Yeah, me too. He's certainly trending in the right direction down the stretch.
Would it shock you if he would? If he did, I guess that's the question. Would it shock you if he doesn't make the 53 in the state that it is right now?
I would be surprised.
You would. Your mouth would hit the floor?
Well, I said surprised, not necessarily shocked. I think I'm one rung below shocked, but okay. I would be, based on the way that he's played, based on the way they've talked about him, based on the summer that he's had, the versatility at the end of the roster, I'd be surprised. Not shocked, but surprised.
Okay. All right.
Anything else from the coordinators? I think we kind of covered the main topics there. Dave, anything else from those guys?
Let's see here. No, I think we hit on that. How about some Mike Tomlin stuff here and his short presser? We'll get more from him on Thursday when he meets the media. Talked about Mason McCormick. He's a guy that's versatile. We've got a lot of guys that are versatile. He goes on to name Spencer Anderson as versatile as well. He's done some of that in the past. And so we feel really comfortable about our multi-positional flexibility there. That rolls back to what we started with the top of this show. Are we going to see some of that flexibility at the center position in this preseason finale? He was asked about Zach Frazier, what has impressed him about Zach Frazier so far. He says, really, I don't know that any of it has been surprising, just the close proximity of to Morgantown and relationships that we have there. He is as advertised. He's mature beyond his football years. He's highly competitive. He's got really good leverage. Obviously, there's a lot of growth ahead of him, but he's got a little time to do that. So we'll just keep working day by day. He was asked about the third preseason game and the quarterback rotation. He says, I'll talk to you guys Thursday after practice and get into that. Asked about Broderick Jones, how he responded to the film from Saturday night. He says he thinks the next performance is an indication of that. It's a process in terms of getting better. You play, you evaluate, and you analyze, you acknowledge, you make another plan to get ready for the next opportunity, but ultimately responses are gauged by the next performance. That's a very Mike Tomlin answer, as was the next one. Broderick Jones has a brace. Has it been affecting him at all? Tomlin was asked. And Mike Tomlin said, we're not looking for excuses. Survey says, ding.
Ding.
Let's see.
Jaylen Warren.
Jaylen Warren. He says, who's obviously dealing with a hamstring injury right now. Mike Tomlin says he's out, probably out for this week, but not anything that's a long-term concern. And I think that's probably about the gist of it.
And that's big on Warren. That's an optimistic tone for his week one availability. NFL Network a couple of days ago said that Warren would be out multiple weeks, and his status for week one was basically in question, maybe not in doubt, but up in the air. Tomlin, hamstrings are tricky, and they can take some time depending on severity. It can be as short as a week. Tyron Johnson had a hammy and came back within a week. They can be 2-3 plus. So sounding better on Warren, but we'll have to wait and see.
I guess the best thing out of all of this, if there is a best thing at all, is it happened in the second preseason game and not the last one.
Very, very true.
Because it gives you that extra week there.
Right, and there's that extra, where the old fourth preseason game was at, so you got like 2 weeks, and you got 2.5 weeks to really recover, 3 weeks to recover here, and so that's going to give Warren a decent chance to make it back for Atlanta. Can I also just say, going back to McCormick, going through his tape, I was like 1 a.m. I just wanted to watch his reps. Man, I am so impressed by Mason McCormick. I came into camp kind of skeptical. You got a small school guy, a rookie, and Pat Meyer's system playing guard. It could be a tough transition, and I've seen veterans struggle to kind of get the pass sets down and feel comfortable with their technique. And McCormick has just been aces. I mean, he's looked so comfortable,
Active hands.
Yeah, refitting his hands, those on-body, off-body sets. His sets have been really strong. He's got great grip strength.
Base.
Yeah, he's got good knee bend and pass protection. He can move people in the run game. He's got active eyes. He's a little tall, maybe as a run blocker, working on pad level knee bend there a little bit. But like this guy has just been good to go, and I did not expect that. And kudos to him.
Yeah, probably not the best COD change of direction overall, but he can get moving and get out in space too, for a guy his size. So excited to see. Look, he ought to get a lot of playing time in this in this preseason finale. And once again, how much of that's going to be at centers? He still does that skip pull too, doesn't he?
I've only seen him pull once, and that was in the opener, but that was the skip pull, which is interesting. Yeah, because Pittsburgh and most of the NFL uses the square pull where you're turning your shoulders and then pulling. Think about the old ways that Faneca or David DeCastro would pull. The skip pull is where your feet don't turn, where your shoulders stay downfield, and that's what he did in college. And so I don't know if they just kind of thought, we're changing your technique so much, Mason, keep the skip pull for now instead of trying to change one more thing about your technique. But yeah, that is something I noticed on tape, was that he's still using the skip pull.
All right. Anything else from the coordinators or Mike Tomlin?
No, that should be about it. The players speaking, a lot of O-line talk yesterday. Mentioned Broderick Jones speaking, Tanu speaking, Zach Frazier speaking, players speaking about Zach Frazier, and the general consensus from Arthur Smith, even, who called him the most prep rookie that he's seen. I don't know if that was saying for this class or in general, but point is, I think everyone has full confidence in Frazier to be next man up. And really, it's probably unfair to call him next man up. He was next man in waiting. Even if he had, Herbig had stayed healthy, we knew that Frazier would be a starter sooner or later. So this may be accelerating that process a little bit, but Frazier was going to be the guy at some point, and I think everyone is confident, for him to be the guy week one.
Right, and as we state every year when we get going in training camp, these things have a funny way of working themselves out through the wash, and that's what's happened here.
What is the best thing you've seen from Zach Frazier so far?
Pass protection.
In terms of just like solid base, or
just and refitting the hands, which you would expect with the wrestling background and all like that. I mean, I think he's been good, very good on some running plays. I think some of his angles that number 44, like we stated, I don't care how, that guy was wrecking things, and obviously not all of it on Zach Frazier, but there were a few angles, I think, in a couple of run plays, short area angles that he could have done better on. But in other instances, in totality, in these first two preseason games, you see that ability to get those reach blocks and those quick turns back to the inside, and just you can see some of that wrestling background in him in the tape in short area in phone booth like situations. And obviously, man, if he gets locked onto you moving forward from the line of scrimmage, you're going to probably end up on your back.
Yeah, I've really been impressed by, like you said, his technique, his hand use. I think some of the snap he's shown off the ball, some of that initial burst. He's not going to be the most athletic guy in space, but he's really quick off the football, and that's going to create some torque and some power.
And a lot of things that we were not privy to boom mics or anything like that. But I mean, so far, he's gotten some praise as far as the line calls that he's making, and as far as calling out, and that'll be an interesting question maybe when we get to the start of the season. How much of that goes on him? Or they let the quarterback, call the protections and stuff like that. But remember, this is a guy that played a lot of snaps at center. I mean, he comes out of the, in this draft class as the most experienced true center there. So this is not new to him overall. So it would be easy to speculate that he should be up and running with knowing what he's seeing and doing with these line calls, and that would match some of the praise that he's getting.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know exactly how it works in Pittsburgh. I think the quarterback has handled a lot of that with some of the veteran guys they've had over the years. Although I know Justin Fields had told reporters last week, or I think late last week, that Frazier would make some calls before Fields would even make some calls, and so maybe it's kind of a shared thing where if Frazier sees something, he can help out. But I imagine Russell Wilson will be able to handle a lot of that for week one.
Mm-hmm. Especially start of the season until he gets more comfortable here.
Yeah, I think over time you give more and more on his plate. But two tough matchups to start the year on the road. We have to use silent counts. I don't know how they'll have to approach that. Atlanta can be some friendly territory for Pittsburgh, but I'm confident in Frazier in terms of making the calls and being clean procedurally. He's shown to be really consistent there from what I've seen from camp start to right now.
The arrow is pointing up.
Well said there, Dave. All right. Anything else from the players yesterday? Again, a lot of O-line talk. Fautanu, regretted, obviously, not that it's not his fault, obviously, but missing all that time in the preseason and not getting those reps, but just ready to take mental reps and get healthy, follow the trainers, and be good for week one.
I think he also stated that the injury to the knee happened sometime, late in the first quarter. So he played another full quarter, so to speak, or at least until, because I believe there's, what was there, like 6 minutes left or 7 minutes when that final drive of the Steelers had in the first half of that first preseason game ended. But anyway, did you get a chance to roll back to maybe retrack down when that injury happened? Not that it matters.
I didn't. I didn't go back. It is what it is what it is at this point, and it's MCL sprain. Luckily, it's not more severe, and he seems to be trending towards being healthy for week one.
The main takeaway here is that we're not expecting him to play in his finale, right?
Right. And the takeaway is that's a pretty tough SOB to sprain his MCL and not even tell the training staff. And he apparently
he wanted a brace.
Yeah. He didn't want to come out. He just wanted to strap on a brace and go out there and keep playing. I think he said he's worked so hard to get to this point. You don't want to bow out unless you have to. So they had to basically drag him off the field to take him out. All right, Dave, let's go through our roster predictions now. I had mine up earlier this week. You have yours up on the site right now for people to check out. So our post-Bills game, well, you only have one more of these after this. Cut Down Tate is right around the corner.
Yeah. It got here quick. And we have one more after this, which will be our final one.
Right. So let's go through and compare and contrast. Both of our rosters have changes since our last edition post-Texans.
Did you have more than me, or because I
think you had more than me in terms of changes, I think.
I had, let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players are no longer in the last prediction that I had.
Okay. I didn't track how many changes I made. I want to say it was fewer, but we'll see. All right, quarterback, though, no changes for either of us, and I don't expect any changes to happen for our final edition, barring something dramatic and probably bad for the Steelers and Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, and Kyle Allen. Only question is, will Pittsburgh go with the more modern trend to keep 2 quarterbacks? I find that to be unlikely.
Yeah, history tells you that it's unlikely to happen. It's not impossible, as they say, but I'm going with the trend that they're keeping 3 and just making Kyle Allen the emergency inactive on game days.
And I think they like Kyle Allen, and especially with that experience he has in that number 3 role. No changes at running back either for either of us. And Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, and Cordero Patterson. Warren's injury may complicate things a little bit on the outlook, but I think if they had to add another running back, it would come to a practice squad elevation more so than keeping somebody on the 53.
I agree, sir.
Let's see, what do we have next here? You're at neither of us keeping a true fullback. Let's go to wide receivers next. And we both have some changes here. And Dave, you have an insert fart sound. Maybe the first insert fart sound in a roster prediction in Steelers Depot history. Can you explain the flatulence?
Yeah, it's Brandon Ayuk flatulence, if you will. Obviously, playing around with it last time, I took a shot, put Brandon Ayuk in my last 53-man roster prediction as I fell for believing that maybe he would be traded from the 49ers to the Steelers last week. That obviously doesn't happen. We still don't know what's going to happen with Brandon Ayuk. It seems to change daily, although for the first time in several days, there was no update on Brandon Ayuk on the NFL Insiders on NFL Network. However, I know Schultz has something out. who knows? But it would have been foolish to go back to back. Heck, it was foolish to do it last time to insert him in there. But I thought I'd have a little bit of fun with it overall. But I got a little bit more serious this time. Brandon Ayuk's not on the Steelers roster right now, so I'm not going to put him in my 53-man roster prediction. And so thus that's a change there. I still am only keeping 5 wide receivers in total. George Pickens, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson, and Dez Fitzpatrick. I really, if you go through the tape, and I think you got a clip or two or a post dedicated to Dez Fitzpatrick after this game. For starters, man, it's trending that he's going to be at least one of these gunners. I mean, and that's a question that we had going into this thing this offseason anyway, is what are these gunners going to look like this season for this team? And not that Dez Fitzpatrick has blown out the tape when it comes to his gunner ability, but he's done a fairly decent job at it, and he's been out there quite a bit. And then you roll that into the way he played offensively in this game against the Bills, did a couple of nice things as far that sideline catch off the kind of the tip ball, the route on kind of that levels concept that we talked about the other day. And I think I stated this to you in the last podcast as well, too. He showed up in the blocking department, didn't he?
Yeah, he blocked his butt off on some of those crunch plays and toss plays. I mean, he was running his feet. And listen, all these receivers, to their credit, under Arthur Smith and Zach Frazier, are blocking like crazy. I mean, they did not block like this last year. They are getting after it because they have to. Otherwise, you will not get to play if you don't block and put forth that effort. So, like you, I did put Dez Fitzpatrick on my 53 as well. I'm keeping 6. I surprised myself. I've been going 5. I didn't think the receiver room was strong enough to warrant keeping 6, but I got Pickens, Jefferson, Wilson, Austin. I'm keeping Scotty Miller still, and I put Dez Fitzpatrick on. Fitzpatrick has not looked great as a gunner, but like you said, you got 2 open spots. I don't know. I barely know who the second gunner is going to be, let alone who would be the first if you didn't have Fitzpatrick as one of those 2 guys. He did have a good tackle on kick coverage, so I'm going to give him the nod to kind of play that, quasi, not as strong as him, but Miles Boykin type role.
If I were to keep 6, Scotty Miller obviously would have been my 6th.
Sure. Why have Miller off though? I'm just curious. Not that it's a sin.
It's a numbers game, Alex.
Okay, fair. I think they like Scotty Miller though. I think he's got versatility, experience, a little Arthur Smith history there.
Sure, so he was my last cut per se. I guess you could say.
Number 54. All right, let's go tight ends. And we have a difference here as we're both kind of conflicted on that 4th spot. Both keeping Pat Frymouth, Darnell Washington, and Connor Hayward. I'm sticking with Michael Pruitt, and you're going with Hot Rod, Rodney Williams.
I'm playing the flip-flop game here. I'm having a hard time figuring this thing out. Michael Pruitt, obviously the better blocker of the 2. I think we both can agree on that. As far as passing game contributions, I don't, hope we don't get into a situation where this team needs to use either one of them a lot in the passing game. Rodney Williams is a better special teamer, and I don't think I'll get much push out of you out of that. Now, it comes down to it. This is going to be, in my opinion, a Danny Smith decision, personally. Well,
yes. I mean, it's Mike. I'm cutting you off. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just think I think Danny Smith's going to have a lot of say in this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Danny Smith would say he has input. It's a Mike Tomlin decision, but certainly what Danny Smith says will weigh into the impact of the decision his team makes.
And Rodney, I think, is logging more special teams than Michael Pruitt.
He is. I think he's doubling his snap count, or at least did so against Buffalo. But Pruitt's playing crazy more offensive snaps. And I think Pruitt, you typically think number 4 tight end wouldn't play, but in this Smith system, I think Pruitt would get snaps, especially because Frymouth's going to split out a bunch and Hayward's on the inline Y. And so I think a Pruitt could actually have offensive value that would give a number 4 tight end some worth in Pittsburgh's, construction of their offense.
And it's hard to get past the fact that, Pruitt has a long history with Arthur Smith.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 guys have been together for how long now? It's the Tennessee days, early on back then. This one's still tight. It's still tight.
It's tough. It's very tough. And I could very easily flip back to Michael Pruitt in this next one.
And I'm mad at you because the question you asked me Monday, either on the pod or on our live stream, is still in my head. Who's the other wing on the punt team? Like Deshaun Elliott should be one. I was thinking, who's going to be the other guy if it's not Rodney Williams? And I don't know the answer to that because it might be Rodney Williams.
Right. Who would it be? Especially if, let's say, Mark Robinson's on the line. Mm-hmm. Have we seen like a guy like Ryan Watts over there or anything? I think
he's got gunner work.
Yeah.
They've had like Coletto, Elliott, Williams. I think Pruitt has a line there in camp, but Pruitt can't run down punts. A 32-year-old tight end trying to chase down punts is not a great idea.
They've had Kyron Johnson on the line on the punt team, haven't they?
Yeah, they've had their front line is typically a bunch of linebackers, also Connor Hayward. It's like Mark Robb, it's Peyton Wilson, it's Connor Hayward, it's Medikevich. Could you maybe pull one of those guys off and have them be the wing and replace them on the line with another linebacker?
And that's where I'm going, but you would see it in a preseason game, you would think.
You would think, although sometimes they do things. Sometimes, listen, they had John Rice Plumlee doing personal protector stuff they never did in training camp. They've had kick returners go back there that hadn't done it before, Terrell Watson years back. So, you got a couple weeks to practice this stuff too after cutdowns before week one begins. So you got some flexibility there, I think.
Right. But you understand the predicament I'm in,
sure.
Then, right?
Yeah. I've called this thing tight. We've all called it, I think, real close battle the whole way through. I bet you Williams is so mad he missed that tackle on that punt. Like I saw him pound his fist in the ground. I was like, if you make that tackle almost in the end zone, that's like a roster spot.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a great point because he had him too. He had him rights to left, and that might have even been in the end zone, or if not, easily at the 1 yard line there.
So super, super close because if he makes that, where I think the conversation shifts a little bit in the eyes of the team right now. All right, let's go offensive line. And we had so much back and forth last time about this. But this one I think is really interesting from you. We're both keeping the same initial 8 here in James Daniels, Isaac Seumalo, Broderick Jones, Troy Fautanu, Zach Frazier, Dan Moore, Mason McCormick, Spencer Anderson. We're both aligned there. Our 9th is different. I'm keeping Dylan Cook still. You're keeping Ryan McCollum. So you're kind of putting your claim, I'm assuming, in McCollum becoming the backup center?
Until I see more. That's the reason that we started the show that the way we did, talking about the center position there, was I need to see somebody else step up and who that player might be and how they might play. Because Ryan McCollum is the most experienced remaining backup center on this roster right now. And although he does obviously have guard experience as well, too, he's a master of he's a jack of many positions interior, but he's a master of none of them. And that's where the concern is okay. Just because you stand in a garage doesn't make you a car, but the fact is he's the most experienced at that. So I am willing to be flexible here, but I want to see more of it. I want to see other people play the center position in this finale. So I have to go with what I've seen so far. More so in projection, especially when you look at the other guys that, could and look, this very well could end up being an outsider, and it's hard. It's obviously hard to put a name in and predict of who that might be.
Right. That's a total guess at that point. To McCollum's credit, I thought he played well in his snaps against Buffalo. I thought his grip strength was good. Technically, he was sound. And you would expect a veteran like him, he's got 100 NFL snaps, to look a little bit better than some of the other third teamers he was with and probably going against. But I thought McCollum played well against Buffalo.
Yeah, I thought he did okay, but once again, you're going off of what you know about a player now for a few years now.
Sure. So I think it's prudent. I think that's fine. And if we see a bunch of Anderson at center in this finale and he looks good, then maybe things will change. I'm still sticking with Cook though, because McCollum just to me has never had the talent to really stick on the 53. I think they will end up using Anderson. I'm kind of projecting out they're going to use Anderson and he'll look competent enough in this one. And like the upside on Cook, versus the limited ceiling for McCollum, it's still hard for me to cut a guy like Dylan Cook, even though I don't think he's had the great summer that I thought he might have going into camp.
I mean, obviously, when I rolled back and look at my notes and compared them to this year, when it comes to Dylan Cook specifically, I mean, I don't think he's done a lot that's really stood out like he did last year. And we also only see him as a one position player this summer as well too, in the preseason. Now, obviously, injuries could playing a part in that, and probably have and all like that, because remember, he did log some guard snaps, I think, last year during the preseason. But I think overall his play last preseason was better than this one.
I agree, but I also had the thought, is it just kind of an expectations thing because Cook was such an unknown to us, and to watch him was kind of new and refreshing. And I don't think he's been bad. Like, what has he done wrong this year? I don't think he's really shown anything bad. Is it just, have we come to expect him to play at this level, and so we're not as impressed by it? It's kind of a thought in my head right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, once again, maybe we'll learn more about this in the final preseason game, but it's just hard for me at this moment until I see more out of Anderson and or McCormick at the center position. What if needed? Sure. What if Anderson is the only one that gets in there and plays like somebody's, how many snaps is McCollum going to get at center in this game? If will they take there's so many unknowns, because you would think that they know all they need to know about McCollum right now, right?
Right. There's not a lot more to learn about him at this point. You've
so
had him for 2.5
words,
years.
So do you bypass him in this game after Frazier comes out to make sure to give Anderson and McCollum longer looks, because you can't dictate how many possessions you get in games, and you probably want to see those guys against at least second teamers as well, talking about Anderson and or McCollum.
McCollum or McCormick?
McCormick.
Right. Yeah. If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm not going to play Frazier much in this game. I'll play him for a little bit, assuming that Russell Wilson and the ones play some. I'll kind of put Frazier out there for that group, but I want to see a lot of Anderson in this game, and hopefully they're getting work in practice to get the reps with Justin Fields or Kyle Allen, and make sure those guys are getting time together, because I don't need to see much out of Frazier. I've learned a ton about him. He's the starter, clear cut there. McCollum, I know about him. Don't need a lot of snaps there either. I want to get just reps in there for Anderson to really evaluate what he can do to make the best decision on who my backup center will and won't be.
The true winner with this offensive line group throughout the summer has been Spencer Anderson.
100%. Going back from, say, Malu's 5 rest days to give Anderson a bunch of extra time to double up on first team and second team reps, to the unfortunate injury for Herbig, but that really, I think, locked in Anderson, his own positive play. He's a guy that was that 10th offensive lineman, maybe right outside the bubble entering camp. To me, he is squarely on this roster now.
Right. And, probably going to see him. I don't know if you might see him a little bit more at right tackle in this finale as well, too.
Yeah. Although I really want him to play center. Like, they got to play one of Anderson or McCoy. What if they don't play either at center in this game? And it's just McCollum. That tells you something.
Yeah, that will tell you either they're either going with McCollum or they're going to look for the outside.
Mm-hmm. Right, 100%. All right, defensive line here. I'm keeping 7. You're keeping 6. I'm keeping Cam Hayward, Larry Ogunjobi, Dean Lowry, Isaiah Loudermilk, DeMarvin Leal, Keanu Benton, Montravius Adams. You're keeping those names except for Loudermilk, where you're cutting over Leal and Lowry.
Yeah, this has ended up being a numbers game, trying to decide between defensive linemen and total amount of cornerbacks. Both these position groups are fluid, I think, as far as numbers go. It's time for Isaiah Loudermilk to meet the two Bobs.
What do you do here? Do you have the same conversation about Dean Lowry, though? I think you mentioned that even in your analysis.
Yeah, I question, is he a lock? And most would obviously suggest he would sign to a 2-year deal, but obviously not a lot of dead money associated with that. If you had to get out of him, cut him. But I'll say this: I will have my eye on Dean Lowry in this finale.
Yeah, how many snaps did he play against Buffalo? His first game action out there. It's good to get him out there. Played okay.
Let me see if I can pull that up. I don't have. It'll take me just a moment here.
It was getting, I think, some base left end work there. Loudermilk's kind of more your base right end. Is how they've been defining roles. And
he played 18 defensive snaps.
Yeah. This one, I've mentioned it before. Lowry and Loudermilk to me are redundant. They're the same dude. Lowry's just a bit older with a little more NFL experience. It feels repetitive to keep both, but Pittsburgh does value their run defense. So this one's still tough, right? I'm keeping all 7. It's rare, but they kept 7 last year. Leal's, to me, played his way on the roster. And I think you want to have a good collection of defensive linemen. So if you had an injury, you had some guys to filter in behind.
I think my change in this position group was out goes Loudermilk, in comes Leal, because I don't think I had Leal in my last one.
Okay. Quick sidebar. I'm just reading a graphic here. I'm not hearing the interview, but Ray Fittipaldo was on The Fan this morning, and this is just the graphic. So again, I can't say the context for sure, but apparently Fittipaldo thinks Roman Wilson could start the year on IR, which would be surprising to me because I think Wilson's making enough progress to avoid IR.
Okay. Well, I mean, that would open up a spot for Scotty Miller then.
Mm-hmm. So something to watch there. So not sure how much I buy. Again, I don't know the exact full comments from Fittipaldo, but notable none the same.
Yeah. And look, we don't. Maybe Mike Tomlin will shed some light on this. We'll probably we'll leave the light on for him.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see him in any of the practice photos yesterday? Was it even reported whether or not is he still sidelined or is he back?
Good question. I didn't think to look, but I feel like had he been practicing, somebody would have caught that.
Right. That's a good point. And if he did not practice, look, you would like to have him a nice full week of practice if he's going to play in this game. I guess it's not, there's no rules that says he can't, but if he doesn't play in this preseason finale, you really have to question, not only would he not suit up for week 1, but might they take the path and put him on IR?
Yeah, I could see him, not suiting up week 1, but IR, be up the first month seems to be a little extreme for an ankle sprain that took place like 2.5 weeks ago. To miss 6-7 weeks for an ankle sprain, I don't know, feels a little. He may be inactive to start the year, but right. IR feels a little, unless something happened, because the reporting was he was getting close to a return. So just something to watch, and we'll dive into that some more.
Right. And obviously you can put 2 players on that final cut down on IR as designated to return.
Without them going on the 53 initially in the whole yo-yo, which is a welcome and smart change for the NFL. All right, back to our roster predictions here. Inside linebacker, we're aligned here, Dave, with the same 5: Patrick Queen, Landon Roberts, Peyton Wilson, Tyler Matakevich, and Mark Robinson. To me, Robinson cemented his spot with a really good game against Buffalo.
And we needed that's the type of games that we need to see in the preseason out of Mark Robinson as well, too. He was all over the place on defense and specifically special teams, and your inside linebackers are usually beyond your starters, special teams guys, and you obviously have some in Peyton Wilson and Tyler Matakevich, and it's hard at this point now, especially with Cole Holcomb likely heading for reserve PUP in a couple of weeks, for them to keep 5 at the position group and for Mark Robinson to be the 5th.
Yep, I'm with you. Outside linebacker, I have made a change here. I'm with you now, Dave, keeping the same 4 in TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, and I'm going with Kyron Johnson over Jeremiah Moon, and you are as well.
Yeah, what did this conversation end up being at the start of all this, and even stemming all the way back to late last season when they claimed Jeremiah Moon off waivers from the Ravens? You thought, okay, this, that guy looked like it, got a very good shot to be the 4th outside linebacker. But I will caution that in my annual 90 and 30 series and all, I said, a lot of people don't remember that Kyron Johnson was on this team for a good portion of last season, and mainly due to his special teams ability. I think he only played like 1 defensive snap last season. But this preseason, we've seen Kyron Johnson be able to make plays on defense, mainly as a pass rusher, but I think he's represented himself well against the run as well, too. He's outplayed Jeremiah Moon on the defensive side of football and on special teams. And the big red flag here circles back to what we noted in our recap of the game, second preseason game. Jeremiah Moon only played 5 preseason snaps in that game, and Johnson played like 41 and 7 more on special teams. Now, Moon did play like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 special team snaps. Will they flip? Might they just wanted to have given Kyron the second one be the Kyron Johnson game, the third one be the Jeremiah Moon game, and then, in other words, give Jeremiah Moon every opportunity to show that he belongs on this roster. I don't know the answer to that. We'll find out in a few more days here. But from what the tape and all and the snaps and all like that say right now, this is Kyron Johnson's job right now as we stand here on this Wednesday.
And that's why I went with Johnson over Moon for my latest prediction. I want to see how the snap counts go. I think they could be flipped where Moon plays a bunch in the finale and Johnson doesn't, to compare and contrast over a full game. But if it's not, then that really tells you something. I'm just going through my notes on who was on the starting units on special teams against Buffalo. Neither started on the kick return unit. Neither started on the punt coverage team. Johnson started on the punt return team. I don't have the kick coverage ones written down for some reason. I don't know if he started there or not. So it's interesting that really, for the most part, neither guy was getting starting snaps. But as you said, Johnson had more overall special team snaps than Moon.
Is it unthinkable that this team goes outside at this point for a edge / higher quality special teamer?
That would be surprising to me. I think you've seen enough good from both guys, and the resumes too have enough there that gives you confidence to pick one of them, and the other probably goes to the practice squads. Right. If you really hate the job the first guy does, you can swap out. It's probably better for the cornerback conversation. Could they go out and get an outside guy to be a gunner? Because I still have no confidence in having a standout gunner on this team right now. Could they go get somebody, a corner, a receiver, whoever, to that's just a really good gunner?
I think so. Yeah, look, because I really, as we stated with Des Fitzpatrick, he's the only one that really seems like at least has an inside shot at one of those two positions. What happens if Miles Boykin gets cut?
That's a great question. I was thinking about that. Or James Pierre. Could you bring Pierre back? It's some outside corner depth, although I don't think that's ideal. But I think if Boykin gets, is he projected to make? See with the Giants right now, is he projected to make that room? Do you have any idea?
I don't have an idea. I can look at the Giants depth chart.
Because I don't think Fitzpatrick had a good tackle on kick coverage, good contain, and at the 22, but he has not made a play as a gunner, and he got beat up a couple times. There was one rep where he got that vice, I should say, and he got put in the ground, and they were just toying with him, and it was just, and you fall, it sucks, but he is not. I thought Watts had a little more of an impact as a gunner. He got a block in the back call, had a good defeat of a couple of blocks. So, I think Fitzpatrick has the experience and has kind of gotten the reps, but I don't know if the play has been tremendous in that capacity.
I'm looking at our lads in the Giants depth chart, and they have Boykin as let's look at their wide receivers: Malik Neighbors, Jalen Hyatt, Wendell Robinson, and then Darius Slayton, Isaiah McKenzie, and Miles Boykin are all listed as second teamers. I'll tell you one person who ain't going to make that roster is Allen Robinson.
Yeah, I forgot they have all the ex-Steelers gunners there too. He's got an injury right now.
Mm-hmm.
Could Gunner's injury open the door for Boykin to make it? I'm looking at one roster prediction. It's just one random one, but they have Boykin making the team. So that's a name. If Boykin's out there, bring him back for sure. He's better than Fitzpatrick. I'll take Boykin back in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think that might be a name to watch.
All right, I got a sidetrack there. So those are our linebackers, still aligned on that. Cornerbacks, I have some changes here with my little cheeky four-man group last time. You got some new names here, and it's still probably looking a little weak overall. I have Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, Corey Trice Jr., Beanie Bishop, and Thomas Graham Jr. Those 5. You're going with 6. You're going with Porter, Jackson, Trice, Bishop, Graham, and Darius Rush.
I guess the bigger question is why are you leaving Darius Rush off?
Hasn't impressed me enough in the summer He was starting camp as a second team outside corner, and he lost some reps. They like Trice more. There's dime potential with him, a little more upside, I think. And Rush has not gotten the special teams gunner work. He's gotten some work as a gunner, at least against Houston. I don't see the role. I think they want to get a vet in there. I still think even under my construction, they would be open to adding a veteran outside corner.
Look, you get past Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson here in this group, and I don't care if you keep 5, 6, or 7. There's a lot of questions here.
Yeah, it's not good when you go past the first 2 and you're like, all right, we got questions.
Yeah.
In this maybe 1973, past the first 2 you can work with. And in this day and age, it's a little tougher.
Look, I struggled with this. I struggled with 5 or 6, and because even if you keep 5, it's, once again, once you get past the top 2, and then none of them have proven to be great special teamers yet. Although Beanie did miss a game, but he's undersized. He's a physical guy. But do you really want a guy like that logging a ton of special team snaps? Might not be a way around it. But
I'm good with that.
And then Thomas Graham Jr. is on my 53 just because he's one of the last men standing here as a backup slot.
Same. Yeah, it's hard. There's not a lot of confidence being instilled when you're writing some of these names down. Once you get past, like you said, Porter and Jackson, even like what is Trice's game day value if he makes the team? He's not really gotten a lot of special teams work, like field goal block. He's gotten a little bit of gunner, jammer, but not a ton there. And do you want him to be next man to have to go play corner if you lost one of those starters for half a game?
If there was a position group other than wide receiver, and we've said this all off season, that's prime for an outside addition. I put this at the end. I will be surprised if the 6 that I have here are the 6.
They think that's well said, and maybe not just. Could you bring in 2 outside additions, a slot and an outside? I mean, that's possible. Bishop plays a great game against Detroit. You'll feel better, but it's still it's a really young secondary behind your starters. Even Porter, obviously second-year guy.
I mean, Corey Trice Jr., how many NFL snaps does he have? Regular season, 0. How many does Darius Rush have? Not a lot.
40-something.
Beanie Bishop Jr., 0. Thomas Graham Jr. has had a cup of coffee. That's about it, right?
How many defensive snaps he's gotten? He's got a couple of games under his belt. I don't know what the special team split was. I'll look it up here really quick on Graham. 149 career defensive snaps. Hasn't played a defensive snap since 2022. Most of his snaps came in 2021 with Chicago. So a little bit of experience, not a ton.
How many special team snaps does he have for his career?
79, but he has gotten very little work in Pittsburgh in camp and in the preseason. 3 snaps on special teams against Buffalo? I'm not even sure what unit that was. I'm not sure if that was just field goal block, which is not giving you a ton of value.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this. Why did you put Rush on there? Just as almost a placeholder, or is there something that Rush has done that tells you he's got a chance to
because the group as a whole was not just, not deep at all. You need numbers there, it feels like.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. So this is a very fluid situation is our point right now. I think at both backup outside spots and everything related to the slot position. All right, safety, a difference here, and people may be surprised with a change that I've made here. You're keeping 5 and Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott, DeMonte Casey, Miles Killebrew, and Ryan Watts. I'm keeping everybody, but I cut Ryan Watts for the first time in my roster prediction. I've consistently put Watts on there. I just wonder if he's a little too raw, a little too green, the way that Teryl Austin talked about him. It sounded more put him on the practice squad for a year and grow as opposed to occupy a 53 spot.
All right, so you have 4, right?
I have 4, correct.
Okay, I think that's where I started.
Right.
Initially was 4. I do wonder about how safe Ryan Watts is, and look, Miles Killebrew, how much, look, he's a special teamer. Yeah, he had the interception the other game and all like that, but you don't want to get in a situation, I don't think, where Miles Killebrew is on defense a lot. If they're going to keep 5 in total and Ryan Watts is not the 5th, then logic tells you it'd be an outsider, wouldn't it?
Or just keep 4.
Yeah, and obviously at some point hopefully you'll get Cameron Sutton back.
Yeah, week 10, and that'll give you some depth. I know
But
that's
that's a
a ways
long
away.
time.
It is. I mean, you could roll with the 4 that you have. I mean, we're talking about in game. If somebody ever got hurt longer term, that's when you could potentially bring in the outsider. Pittsburgh got pretty good at bringing in outsiders to play safety last year and defensively across the board. So, Casey's got versatility. And yeah, Killebrew would not be ideal, but if you threw him out there, you trust him. He made plays last year. He looked good last year in limited action. So to get you through a game, I think that can work. I got a lot of pushback for cutting Watts. People said, he's going to be claimed. I'd be surprised if Ryan Watts got claimed if you cut him. We talk about that a lot. That occasionally happens, usually more valuable positions, O-line, corner, those types of things, less so on a safety that's against. Austin's comments made him sound super raw. I think he's made some mistakes. I even saw that against Buffalo.
He's still learning a position. Now,
he could still capture a gunner spot if he does, and that's his path, and he's gotten some work. He got increased reps because Bishop did not play against Buffalo, and Bishop was a starting gunner opposite Fitzpatrick versus Houston. So there is still a path, and if he has a great performance against Detroit, then he could make it. But to me, just like he was my 54th guy.
All right, and I think that has you keeping 9 total defensive backs.
Yes, which feels light, but also I assume there's going to be some outsiders brought in.
Right, and I'm keeping 11, but I too am open for outsiders coming in.
Yeah, but this is the initial 53 cut down date, August 27th at 4 p.m. What does the roster look like? That is how I create this roster because I don't predict specific names or outsider positions.
And you have 6 wide receivers, and you made up the difference in 10 offensive linemen, correct?
No, I have 9 offensive linemen.
Oh, okay. You have 9. Okay.
Right. I had 10 last time, 9 this time. Where are you light at? Because you're heavy at maybe not heavy, but you're heavier at 11 DBs. I guess you're keeping the 5 receivers, the 6 defensive linemen. That's kind of where you made your cuts to balance that group out.
Right. That's where I balanced it.
And are we both 26-24 offense defense? No, I'm 25-25. You're 24 offense.
I'm 24-26.
Okay, gotcha. Specialists, of course, the same in Boss, Johnston, and Kuntz. No discussion to be had there. IR, Herbig, Holcomb, the reserve pup, Cam Sutton to reserve suspended. Those guys do not have to make the 53 initially, and then you got your practice squatters. You put Logan Lee on there. Of your 17, give me like 2 or 3 names that you're most confident will make the practice squad of your list of names.
Julius Welshaw.
Oh, that's a free space. You knew you would pull that kind of stuff.
Jonathan Ward, I think, has done enough if he wants to sign to it.
Your boy Widman, Jacoby.
I don't know if I'd say he's a lock. I mean, he didn't show up as much in that last game, I didn't think, as he did the first one. Logan Lee feels like he's headed there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's real high chance.
And yeah, you really have to. John Rice Plumlee, man. I mean, he can do a lot of things for you in practice.
Good scout team guy, can wear a lot of hats. That's a fun, versatile, hard worker that's worth keeping around on a 17-man practice squad.
Willington Prevleon, I like it. I don't know if I'd consider him a lock, but I like his chances. And I think
I left him off. I left him off my practice squad.
All right. Who are the guys that you would maybe consider more lock? Look, and I got Jack Coletto on there. I think there's a good chance he ends up on there.
I do too. Yeah, I think the names you mentioned, Plumlee, Ward, assuming good health, still don't know the status of the hamstring injury. But if he's going to be good to go for week 1, then he makes sense. I didn't have McCullum making the 53. I think if he doesn't, he's a lock for practice squad. Lee, another virtual lock. I think Widman still makes it. Jalen Elliott, veteran safety. I put him on the practice squad too. And those are kind of the guys that come to mind.
All right. 17 dart throws.
There you go. All right, Dave. Anything else here to discuss in today's show? If not, we can get to some reader emails and start closing out today's show.
What'd you think about J.J. Watt being at practice?
Yeah, Tomlin said he liked to have him there. Can we keep him, Dave? Can we keep J.J. Watt in Pittsburgh? No, that was cool to see. Those rumors continue to persist, and Bill Cowher said he's still at his playing weight. So I wonder what it would take, though, because it felt like
he looks like he misses a game.
Yeah, and I'm sure being around TJ gets that itch back a little bit. JJ was talking about it. It's fall weather. It's cool yesterday in Pittsburgh. You kind of have the feel. But like, if there was time to unretire, how did he not come back last year? Because A, Pittsburgh loses Cam Hayward, and so there's a great opportunity to come back then. And then B, Houston has a great season, goes on a playoff run. How did he not unretire to go back to Houston?
Yeah, only he can answer that. He's obviously, and Bill Cowher, I think, said that he's in shape, so, and he looks it.
Yeah, he still looks at his playing weight.
I don't know. I mean, obviously we're just, having fun with this. There's nothing to suggest that he's going to sign with any team at this point. But if it got later on in the season and he thought he could get on a team that could make a run, maybe he would consider it.
Right, but it felt like last year, like, what better circumstances would you need? Because Houston made the playoffs, Pittsburgh had injuries and made the playoffs. They really could have used a defensive lineman like J.J. Watt last year to try to push down the stretch. I don't know what better situation would arise that would convince Watt to do it. But I'll just say this. They have not closed the door on him retiring. J.J. hasn't. The comments from Bill Cowher, even T.J. Watt, when he talked to Kay Adams during training camp, said, like, guy still loves to play. He still loves watching tape of mine, giving me feedback. TJ didn't say what was going to happen. He said that's a whole JJ decision, obviously, but like, the doors have not been closed for JJ.
It's made a nice Brandon Ayuk distraction.
Yes, right. Until midseason when JJ Watt, we read about him probably 27 times based on whatever he's got going on. So anyway, let's get to some emails, Dave, and close out today's show.
All right, let's start from Mark Alves here from Arlington, Virginia. That's a new name, I think. Alex and Dave, how about the Terry as the camp award name? A nod to the Terrible Towel, the Terrible Podcast, and to the campy Terry Bradshaw. That's interesting.
I like it. Consider that.
All right. Thanks for the email. Mark, Jason Chadwell writes in, hi, Dave and Alex. Khan gets a lot of credit for his first two drafts, trading away Claypool and his free agent signings thus far. However, I feel he deserves some criticism for trading away Deontay Johnson without a true solution to replace him. I also believe he deserves some criticism for how he has assembled the cornerback room this offseason. Question, why do you think Khan and Tomlin were comfortable with the wide receiver and cornerback rooms they brought to camp? Do you think the lack of depth and overall talent in these two rooms will hurt the team this season? Let's start with the second question first. Look, we just are blogging from our mom's basements and podcasting from our mom's basements here, but we've talked about concerns about this wide receiver and cornerback room all offseason, have we not?
We have. And I've even mentioned, we've talked about all the turnover offensively, the newness offensively, the brand new quarterback room, but the cornerback room is really pretty much brand new too. Just look at our predictions of Porter, Jackson, Trice, Rush, Bishop, and Graham. Only guy who played for Pittsburgh last year was Porter. Trice was a Steeler, but he was on IR. So that is a brand new room. It is interesting. In today's age, teams are always trying to be strong at what positions besides quarterback, receiver, and corner. Guys that can catch and guys who can cover, guys who can catch. And Pittsburgh seems weak on both, and that is on a baseline level concerning.
Agreed, for sure. So, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out ultimately. But, is there reason to be concerned with both those position groups where they stand right now? Look, a lot can and probably will change, outsider or two in the DB room. And obviously we all wait and see what happens with the Brandon Ayuk situation here. As far as the first part of the question, deserves some criticism for trading away Johnson without a true solution to replace him. We could put together 45 more minutes probably on this show talking about this, and a lot of it would be centered around speculatory and things of that nature here. But how much of a distraction may have an attitude may have Johnson presented this team, first and foremost? That's something that needs to be thought about in all this. Secondly, I think Deontay Johnson was and is a great separator. I think the main trait of his as a wide receiver in the NFL is ability to separate. However, the other, when looking at him from other areas there, the drops obviously come into play. The running backwards after the catch obviously come into play when it comes to that. The overall yards after the catch comes into play on that. There's a lot of things that need to be talked about overall, I think, when you discuss mainly why they decided to move on from him and
Yeah,
trade
I
him
think
away.
that's well said and well discussed. And I was critical of the trade. At least Dante Jackson seems to be playing well for Pittsburgh so far. Yeah, as to why they felt comfortable or why they are comfortable with the roster the way it is, I think at receiver, they've always been angling towards making that splash trade. And so they've kind of kept the door open, thinking and hoping they would land Ayuk or somebody like that. And you're in an Arthur Smith offense that's going to run the ball a lot, doesn't utilize number 2, number 3 receivers a ton comparatively. So that made Pittsburgh more comfortable not needing to have, a great top 3 like past years at corner. Why are they comfortable? It just may be a transitional thing. You got a bunch of free agents, a lot of guys that were getting older. Patrick Peterson, not a free agent, but somebody older that you cut to save money. Levi Wallace, James Pierre, you did want upgrades there. It kind of felt like a renewal for the cornerback room just based on how everyone was kind of up at the same time contractually and probably time for some new faces in there. But it is going to potentially create growing pains at the start. But let's get to September 8th. Let's see how the rooms look overall. Hopefully by September 8th, we'll know what happens with Ayuk. We'll know if any outsiders get brought in the secondary. I imagine at least one new secondary name will be added. Let's be able to look at the roster as it is when the games start counting, because this roster is not being done, being shaped and formed quite yet.
Right. All right, let's move on to Rob Jones, who writes in, an unpopular opinion is the offensive lineman that should be extended is Dan Moore Jr. Whether you agree or not, what do you think that would look like? I don't because of just not thinking it's going to happen. I don't even know that it's worthy of really even speculating out what it would look like.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously tackles get paid and they get paid more than people think because of the scarcity. Just in general, should there be a conversation about extending out Dan Moore Jr.?
I don't think so.
And then you base it off of just obviously having 2 first-round picks in Jones and Fautanu.
Yeah, just I mean, you're already invested in that in the draft and all like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you overall. I mean, you're not going to trade the guy, and Moore's maybe more valuable than people thought he would be, but I don't see the extension there.
I would agree. I don't.
If you had to guess on a number, because he's saying like even just putting aside the plausibility, like what is his market value right now? Are we talking like $8 million?
No. I wouldn't even go that high. I'd say. I mean, look, I would say his average yearly value is what it is right now, which is about a hair over $3 million, maybe $4 million.
On the open market, do you think it'd be that little? I think you get a little bit more than that.
I don't.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Okay, let's see here. If we got anything else here. Rich Hud. Good day, fellas. 2 questions here. It seems Broderick's right arm is the one that's hurt. Could this be the reason he is struggling, as it's his outside arm? Could be a great time to make this left tackle switch. Do you agree? Next, with Jaylen Warren injury, I think this highlights Najee's real superpower. Can Najee keep it up for however long Jaylen is out? We had the conversation about Broderick Jones and the outside arm a couple of times already, right?
Yeah, I think there's an impact to it for sure. I do think typically you're punching more with the inside hand. That's a little more important to secure that. And so when you're the right tackle with your right hand injured, it may hurt you a little bit less in some sense. But obviously you want to have both hands and be able to punch strongly and strike efficiently with both hands there. In terms of Harris, I mean, listen, if Warren misses time, it's going to be maybe a week, maybe the opener. Not going to really impact things too much. But yeah, if Harris has to be the guy for a week or 2, he can do that.
All right. Let's see. I think we've got through everything here that I'm seeing in the email machine. All right. Anything else to add before we get out of here? 90 minutes in?
Nope. We'll come back on Friday and see what there is to talk about then.
All right. We'll be recapping the Mike Tomlin press conference from Thursday then, and we'll see what else hits beyond that. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter /X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button in the navigational bar. Also, if you like the ad-free version, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. Follow the directions that way. So until Friday, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.